What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode. We've got an absolute banger for you. Got a lot of different stuff in this one. I just wanted to throw some stuff in there, test it out, see how you guys respond. So let me know in the comments what you think, what you like, what you don't like. You know, some constructive criticism. I'm trying to put this out there for everyone that's in the same space as us, trying to get to the truth of things. I appreciate everybody that's been watching. I appreciate the comments. It's been nothing but love. I cannot thank you enough. All of you guys that have subbed, I deeply appreciate it. Also, hit that like and subscribe and that notification bell. Run the numbers up on the algorithm. Get this awareness out there to people. Get this out there to where we have a larger community of people that are aware of what's going on. The more people that are aware, the more powerful we are, because when we stand together, we're more powerful than everyone else, than the elites, or whoever, the people are that are controlling the world. I don't want to say the names of the corporations or the names of the groups, but you know who I'm talking about. But also, do your own research. Don't believe anything that I say. Don't believe anything you see on these videos. Do your own research. I've done my research, and I've said this before. I've been to 30 countries, researching a lot of different things. And, I've come to my own conclusions about certain things, but I've also come mostly with more questions. Especially back then, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have all of this data available, but all of this data is also easily manipulated, but yeah, I appreciate every last one of you, and on that note, let's get into it.
The following story comes from this book, Introduction to the Alien Races, Russia's Secret Book. Upon their official discovery of extraterrestrials in 1946, Russia established a team. This team consisted of investigators from the KGB to Russian diplomats. And whatever they may encounter, they were to put in this book. This book of alien races is both an instruction manual and a source of information to be used for now and in the future until the day it will be needed no more. Learn from it, add to it. Says you are forbidden of showing this book to anyone, talking about the book to anyone, talking about or revealing your investigative activities to anyone, drinking alcohol on and off duty, consuming drugs on and off duty, helping alien races no matter the situation or request, choosing sides when physically amongst different alien races or during investigation, and of engaging in sexual activities with any of the members of the alien race. So they made it pretty clear as to what they wanted. This could be comparable to Project Blue Book in the US Air Force back in the 50s. The contents of this book, mind-blowing. The first account of an alien encounter referenced in this book had me hooked. I couldn't put it down. Warning, discretion advised. In 1924, near Yekaterinslav, Ukraine, the three daughters of a Russian captain named Andreychuk simply vanished. The captain was of Russian descent and very little was known about him, except for that he traveled a lot. A neighboring farmer said that one late night, early morning, as he was beginning his chores, he saw the captain's daughters walking into the woods about 2 hours before sunrise. Thinking it odd as he had never seen them do this before, the concerned farmer followed them into the woods. He would follow them at a distance, and after walking about 30 minutes or so, he described seeing purple and red lights and a mist through the trees. He got closer and saw all three of the captain's daughters entering what he described as a windmill-like plane. He also described seeing 5 creatures as small as the children, but with much older faces. They escorted the girls onto the ship, then closed the hatch, and took off into the sky. It ascended at a rate that seemed to be extra slow, until finally he said the ship disappeared among the stars. According to the farmer, he then ran back to the captain's house to inform him of what happened. This is said to be an authentic picture of the captain's farmhouse. He arrived at the homestead and began frantically knocking on the door, but no one answered. So eventually he let himself in. He found the captain and his wife lifeless on their bed. Their faces, he explained, were peaceful, as if they had passed in their sleep. He'd find all their animals, 3 dogs, 1 horse, and 2 goats, deceased as well. On the kitchen table, there was a letter or a note, not signed, but they believed the handwriting matched one of the daughters, Sophia. The note read, "We are going to school in the moon with our friends." It's unverified, but it's believed this picture is of Sophia. The three daughters were never heard from or seen again.
Okay, well, apparently fucking aliens exist. This is real. This is on the NBC website. This is in the mainstream media. The unidentified flying objects have asked not to publish that they are here because humanity is not ready yet. Cooperation agreements have been signed between species, including an underground base in the depths of Mars, a galactic federation. What? This is a real fucking article on NBC. Well, I get out of the shower and apparently fucking aliens are real.
Aliens exist and President Trump knows about it. The aliens have been waiting until today for humanity to develop and reach a stage where we will understand in general what space and spaceships are.
And he says President Trump is aware of the existence of these aliens and had been on the verge of revealing their secrets, he claims.
So y'all, I've been watching this documentary called Extraordinary, The Seeding, where these people share their stories on how they've been abducted by the Greys. And yes, I believe this is a real life thing. I believe this is still going on till this day. I've been reading this book that actually talks about a lot of different alien races, and a lot of them actually come on Earth to abduct humans, either to make hybrid babies or just for experimental purposes. My question is, does our soul, before we are incarnated onto this earth, does our soul sign a contract to these higher beings allowing them to abduct us, or does the higher ups sign a contract to these higher beings in exchange for technology? Also, American Horror Story, the very last season double feature, goes into this, bro, which really, it's got me thinking, and I know I shouldn't be concerned about it, because there's really nothing I can do, per se, but I don't know, it just really had me thinking. What do y'all think?
Did you know that in the ancient biblical text of the Book of Enoch, there's vivid descriptions of multiracial aliens called Anunnaki, who went against God and slept with the daughters of men, and they bore great giant offspring? Enoch, who was the great-grandfather of
So this is where you've got to do your reading. The Anunnaki are not mentioned in the Book of Enoch. They're not. They're called Nephilim. So that's why I say do your research. They're trying to put things together that are not together. So do your research.
of biblical Noah, also known as Zisudra, recounts Noah being albino with blue eyes and a son of Enki, the Sumerian water god. Interestingly, the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD chose to exclude this book from the Bible due to its detailed accounts of encounters with alien beings known as the Anunnaki, who interacted with our ancient ancestors. Today, we're going to reveal the complete historical records from the Book of Enoch and the Lost Book of Enki, shedding light on these events from ancient times.
Sorry to pause again. There were 1,126 books that were excluded. Not just they're talking about with the Council of Nicaea. Nicene Council did a lot more things because it was a form of control. They were trying, they took out, the majority of what was in there and only left in what was there to control people. It's a form of control, and that all came from, the Catholic Church. That's where all that stems from.
Enoch, a righteous and just man favored by the Lord God Enki, described a time before the first great flood. He witnessed extraordinary events, such as being taken up into the sky in a burning disc or chariot, where he saw the earth as a massive sphere, which in modern terms, this could be interpreted as an experience of being on a spaceship, viewing the planet Earth from beyond its atmosphere. During Enoch's time, humanity was peaceful, offering rituals and sacrifices to both their god and gods. Ritually, these gods accepted the offerings and stored them for later use, thus no longer needing to farm or grow their own food on this planet. The humans could do it for them. Enki, a compassionate, wise, but lustrous water god, was left in charge of Earth after his brother Enlil was away off planet. He held great affection for human men and also the daughters they produced. This led to him having relations with Lamech's wife, Betanos. Lamech, the grandson of Enoch, was driven and overjoyed to hear the birth of a son from Betanos. Little did he know the great shock that awaited him. The following verse from Book of Enoch 105 reads, "After a time, my son Methuselah took a wife for his son Lamech. She became pregnant by him and brought forth a child, the flesh of which was as white as snow and red as a rose, the hair of whose head was white like wool and long, and whose eyes were beautiful. When he opened them, he illuminated all the house, like the sun. The whole house abounded with light. And when he was taken from the hand of the midwife, opening also his mouth, he spoke to the Lord of righteousness. Then Lamech his father was afraid of him, and flying away came to his own father Methuselah, and said, I have begotten a son, unlike to other children. He is not human, but resembling the offspring of the angels of heaven, is of a different nature from ours, being altogether unlike to us." Enoch's depiction in this passage reveals that Noah, also known as Zisudra, possessed the distinctive trait of being an albino. He bore striking physical resemblances to some of messengers and deities, commonly referred to as the Anunnaki. This uniqueness set him apart from other humans, as the descendants of Adam had a dark skin complexion during this time.
Drink their blood. Okay. Because this is how we do it. So like on Wednesdays is the most special, busiest day, special day.
Okay. We'll take it little bit by little bit.
As I said, we kill, we drink their blood, we eat them. But then after so the social services who are in it, they go to families, so the families can't afford, so they get a baby but they can't look after it or anything. They can't buy food or they can't buy clothes, they can't look after it. So the families who sell their children, so the social services get them, they say they get them from foster.
This is why agencies like, I don't know what it is in your state. Here it's DHR. I think it's Department of Human Services or something. But it's the people that are supposed to protect children and get called when anything's going on with children. The only thing these agencies have done since they've been since their inception has been remove fathers from the home, make mothers single parents, put them on welfare, and keep them in this cycle to where, they give them living conditions that are just horrendous. And then they've tested this on mice. That's why projects are built the way that they are. They've done this with mice. So they've taken mice and they've put them in little small areas, just like a project housing. And what ended up, mice are cannibalistic anyways. They're cannibals. But what ended up happening was the mice went to war with each other. And then at the end, there was always one king mouse every single time. And so they built this off of that study. They built all of these projects off of that study because the prison systems are a big business. And then you have your private prison systems, which are even bigger business. Your federal prison systems, that's a major business. But your private prison systems, that's where the money is. That's where the big bucks are. So they want you to go there. So they want to cause situations that will remove the father from the home, and they will also remove the children from the home. Now, what they do with these children is things that I definitely cannot speak of on YouTube. But you get what I'm saying. These are bad things. These are horrendous things. And there's a special place in the afterlife, and I'm not talking hell. There's a special punishment for people that do things to innocent children. That's just that. It's universal law. I'm not talking religion. I'm not talking denomination. I'm not talking God. I'm talking universal law. You do things and take the innocence of a child, things are going to happen to you, you know, after you're unalived, you know. So that's just that. It's universal law. There's certain universal laws, just like physics. There's certain universal laws that are just, you know. They just are. There's no getting around it. Those are the laws. And these places have done not much good. You know, I've had friends that work in these places, and yeah, I've seen them go into places that are quarter homes, and you know, the parents have mental conditions, and the place is a mess, and it's not a viable living space for a child. And I understand that, but that's not the norm. The norm is quite the opposite. But I just wanted to toss that in there. Sorry for pausing. I just wanted to throw that in.
Besides the many connections between cultures and faiths with various extraterrestrials, there has been a civilization of aliens who have covertly helped the Russian Federation for over 70 years. These Pacific extraterrestrials became known as the Falcetians and originate from stellar masses within the Eridanus constellation. And since 1953, they have been helping to protect the Russian Federation from the reptoids and the Orion Greys. Certain Falcetians covertly gave the Soviet Union very advanced occult technology that has then been mass-produced. Yes, this sounds like a science fiction movie, but this has been documented, so please research it for yourselves. It is believed that during 1950, the Soviet cosmonaut known as Alexei Leonov met the Falcetians who communicated with him by using telepathy. This is how Alexei Leonov was able to gather this advanced information, which he put into a document called the Book of Alien Races. Besides the many connections,
some of the images started appearing in TV series and video games, Mass Effect being the most well-known. In 1924, near Yekaterinoslav, Ukraine, the three daughters of a certain Captain Andreychuk simply vanished. Captain Andreychuk was of Russian descent, and very little is known about him, except that he traveled a lot. A farmer that lived near Captain Andreychuk's house said that he saw the captain's daughters walking towards the woods, maybe 2 hours before sunrise. Intrigued, he followed them at a distance. After walking for 30 minutes, he described seeing purple and red lights and a mist through the trees. He got closer and saw the three girls entering what he called a floating bright windmill-like plane. He also reported seeing 5 creatures, as small as the children but with a much older face. According to him, the windmill then flew very slowly into the stars, until he could not tell them apart. According to the farmer, he ran to Captain Andreychuk's house to warn him about the event. This photo supposedly shows the farmer's house upon arriving. He knocked on the door but nobody answered. He then entered the house and found the captain and his wife dead on the bed. Their faces were peaceful, as if they had died during their sleep. All their animals, 3 dogs, 1 horse, and 2 goats, were dead as well. On the kitchen table there was a letter, with the handwriting that matched Sophia, one of the daughters. It said, "We are going to the school in the moon with our friends." Supposed photo of Sophia. 2 SMERSH Agents Department IVA 112. It is your duty to thoroughly investigate all events regarding any reports of visitations or incidents concerning creatures from other planets as well as with non-terrestrial creatures that dwell on our planet at the present or future time. It is your duty to immediately present to your superior in charge, KL-44, any material evidence gathered during your investigations. It is your duty to keep absolute secrecy and concealment regarding your findings and conclusions during your investigations, except from your superior in charge, KL-44. It is your duty to immediately destroy this book, in case your physical being or personal safety is threatened. The loss of this book, while in your possession, will result in serious consequences for your two SMERSH companion agents as well as for your immediate relatives. Make use of your extensive training and love for our great union. Chief Marshal Konstantin A. Version and this book of alien races is both an instructions manual and a source of information to be used now and in the future until the day it will be needed no more. Learn from it and add to it. When with humans, 1. Investigate events. 2. Interrogate witnesses. 3. Gather physical evidence. When with aliens, 1. Engage with them. 2. Follow them. 3. Learn from them. You are forbidden of showing this book to anyone, talking about the book to anyone, talking about or revealing your investigative activities to anyone, drinking alcohol on and off duty, consuming drugs on and off duty, helping alien races no matter the situation or request, choosing sides when physically amongst different alien races, or during investigations, and of engaging in sexual activities with any members of any alien race. The alien races. Allgruulk, aka the Builders. They come from constellation Sculptor. They derive from an ancient race of reptilians that has gone extinct. They are specialists at building ships and other devices needed for deep space traveling. They are also space travelers themselves, searching for new raw materials. They can live up to 230 years. Last seen near Tokyo, Japan in 2005. Healy Tocket. They come from constellation Vela near the star Suhail al-Mulif. They grow up to 2 meters high, 6 feet, and live up to 200 years. They can shape-shift and are very hard to detect. When they shape-shift, the only thing they cannot change is the size and color of their eyes. They are one of the oldest known races. They do abduct humans. Last seen on Earth in July of 2008. Pleiadians. They come from solar systems surrounding the Pleiades stars, more precisely from the planet Era near the star Taygeta. They are associated with spiritual growth. They can grow up to 2.5 meters, 8 feet. They practice sex cultivation. The distinct difference between the sexual expressions and the sensual emotions. Their ships are known as beam ships. Although regularly visiting Earth, they have remained mostly silent since 10,000 BC.
Afin. They come from constellation Lyra. They call themselves Afimspiancy, small in stature and with blue spotty skin. Their planet is called Crimea AI Petri. Their technical developed level is such that they can get here from their planet in only 20 Earth minutes. They do not need oxygen. A large percentage of their atmosphere is hydrogen. Colonize 10 planets in a non-violent way. When they are close to humans, they cannot be seen, unless they want to. But humans will feel a certain amount of unexplained anxiety. Their spaceships are small and sphere-like. They visit us to study human deviation. This activity is important to them in determining the further development of the human race.
Thumbs are only about half as long, but their fingers are longer in proportion to their hand than ours, and they're way more flexible. But it also means that they're not built for heavy lifting. We're built like gorillas compared to them, you see. They have men, women, and children, and if the men and women are standing side by side, walking or moving, it's frequently not possible to tell which one is the man, which one is the woman, especially for the young adults. When they get older, then there are obvious differences, but in the facial structure and the bones and stuff. But especially for the young adults, it's entirely tied. And if they're not moving, to be not sure if you're talking to men or women. Once they start moving, though, then it's very obvious which ones are the men and which ones are the women, because the men are more like human men. When they walk, they kind of go pound, 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 whereas the women are much lighter on their feet and much more animated. The women are much more like human women, much more willing to talk than the men. It wouldn't be at all unusual for, say, four young men to come around and not have any reason to say anything, and not say anything, to just come around and to just come and not say hello, not say goodbye, not say anything in between, and just stand and look at you.
So let me pause it right here just to introduce who this is. I believe his name is Charles Hall. I saw his I saw stuff on him a long time ago, and I actually believe what he's saying. He was stationed at a lighthouse, and I think it was actually I can't remember where it was. He was stationed at a lighthouse, and he talks about his daily duties as guard of the lighthouse. All of the things that he would have to do daily, to make sure everything was in order with the property, with the lighthouse. And turns out that there was in a building a bit off from where he was, there were these beings that were living there. And children were really interested in what he was doing. And he said it was almost like an airport for different species, extraterrestrials. He said, they would come and go a lot, but, the children were always interested in what he was doing. They could see the light, they could see what he was outside doing stuff all the time, so they were interested in what he was doing. And so the children would come over to him, and that's how he learned about how to deal with them, because the children don't know any better, but the parents were very the way he describes it, if you think of the most protective parent you could ever think of, multiply that 50 times over, and that's how they are. So that's how he got into this situation, this experience that he's had.
Whereas the women, if they came, usually the women would say something like, typically, is it okay if the children play while you release the balloon? Or usually, if you ask the women something, they would have some questions, or at least some conversation. But they never came the tall whites never came just to talk with me. If they were talking with me, it was always as part of the reason they came. The women were very proud of the fact that they loved their children. The men were too, but the women were immensely proud of it. If a tall white lady came and she had children with her, a very common way for her to start the conversation would be for her to ask me, using English, which she had learned, do I understand that they love their children more than human women love their children? Or in other words, I want to make sure my children are safe, you see? And of course, when I said, yes, I understand that, then they would noticeably relax and feel happier. If a tall white lady came with children and she didn't say anything, a common way for me to start the conversation would be for me to say, I understand that you love your children more than human women love their children, and then she'd relax and feel better. In many ways, the tall white women were like female gorillas. Could consider the children to be untouchable, okay? If you touch the children, the mother might kill you, no matter how pleasant she seemed. no matter how close the child came. So, for example, and I speak from direct experience, if I was standing by my theodolite and the child wanted to look through the theodolite and the child was right there, then there's no way in the world that it would be suicide for me to reach over and touch the child. That will upset the mother. And for example, on one evening, this tall white lady came who I had seen a few times before, but she wasn't a regular, and she brought 3 children with her. And she was somewhat older than the typical young adult, and therefore somewhat taller. She was 6'1", 6'2", and following the usual so-called protocol, she had come down the bunker road with her 3 children in an obvious manner to let me get used to the idea that she was coming with her kids. And then when she got to the end of the bunker road where the range boards were, she began approaching me directly. I was halfway across the square. And as she got closer, perhaps 20 feet, 15 feet, even though I'd gotten over my fear of the tall whites, because you had to treat each one as an individual, I found it a little intimidating that she was coming that close. And so I backed away from my theodolite towards the generator shack, and she said, "Is it okay if the children look in my weather shack while I took my report?" And I said yes, and so I backed away to the generator shack and stood with my back to the wall of the generator shack and left her standing just to the northeast of my theodolite and, said, "Take all the time you want." And so then the 3 children went into my weather shack, like kids do, and they didn't touch anything or move anything, but they were just looking around out of curiosity. And at the time, as she stood there, she was looking at her children who were in the shack. Now, I'm not sure they were all her children. Usually, when the tall white lady came with 3 children, the typical contingent, 1 would be hers and 2 would be the children of someone else. Typically, she'd be babysitting 2 kids and bringing one of her own. And so she was watching the children. I became concerned because I had a can of Coca-Cola, which was in a metal can, sitting on one of the shelves. Now, the tall whites wore suits when they came at night that put out a zone of fluorescent light and radioactive particles. The suits protected them from things, like if you threw a rock at them, the rock wouldn't hit them, it would get to that zone and fall to the ground. It also allowed them to levitate, especially the children, but they had to balance themselves when they did so the children might use the suits to levitate. The adults usually didn't levitate very much, 9 inches or so, but it worked like an elevator, as I'll describe later. And I became concerned that since the children had their suits on, usually the kids turned off the power to their suits when they went in my shack, and I became afraid that they would get next to that can of Coca-Cola and might be in some danger, in which case I might be blamed, It would have been, suicide for me to go over to my weather shack and speak to the children. The mother might well have killed me if I'd done that. There's no way in the world you could go over there and say, "Children, don't do this, children, don't do that." You're just taking your life in your hands to try that. You have to talk to the mother, and that's how the tall whites are. And on the other hand, she wasn't looking at me at the time. And so what I did is I took 2 steps forward and stopped and stood there with my hands at my side and my feet, not moving, and waited for her to see me. And of course, when I took 2 steps forward and stopped, then she looked over where I was immediately. And then when I had her attention, I said, "I'm worried about the safety of the children. I have a can of Coca-Cola there in that can, and I'm worried that the children might be in some danger if they get too close to it." And the mother said, "I'll handle it." And then the mother obviously communicated with the children, and the children were very well behaved, and they stayed away from my can of soda pop. The children never disobeyed their parents that I ever saw, and the parents would do anything for their children. So when they traveled in family groups, they were very tightly knit. When the women came around, they never came around alone. None of the tall whites ever came around alone. They always came around in groups, and the adults were always well armed. But it was common for the women to be very proud of their family relationships. The men were too, but it was just more common for the women to describe it. So it was very common, say, like if a group of them came around, for the lady to say things like, the guard on the tower is my mother's brother's son, and just identify who all their friends were, if they were who they were related to and who they weren't related to, and far more so than what humans would do. They did more than just travel in family groups. They appeared to maintain very tightly knit family relationships. I have it. If you're lost, just come to where I am and I'll call the base commander and stuff. I was coming down the last big wide trail with sagebrush on both sides, and I wondered if she was following behind me. And I stopped and turned around slowly, and a sight I'll always remember, running straight towards me, not as far away as the car, 50 feet, maybe less, was one of the tall white men, Range 4 Harry. He was running down the trail straight towards me, and I stood there like a deer in the headlights. He could have run right over me. I was in such shock. And he got to a cross lane that I had cut, and then he turned quickly into the cross lane and ducked down behind the sagebrush, and then would peek at me over the sagebrush. And I was in such shock, I was kind of staggering, and all I could think. They live 600 or 800 years.
Wow.
But they don't age the way we do. When they get to be equivalent to a human of about 40 years, that means when they're about 400 years, they start growing again instead of aging as humans.
Right.
And then they go, and this continues, and so that by the time they get to be 600 or 800 years old, they're very tall, 8.5, 9, or 10 feet tall, but this is not necessarily good because their skeleton grows more than their internal organs. And so there comes a time after 600 or 800 years when their skeleton, their body is tall, but their organs can't support it, at which time they die a natural death, because they're just flesh and blood creatures like we are. If they injure themselves, it takes them 10 times longer to heal up than a human.
Yes.
So they're humanoid. Their skin is as white as a piece of paper. Throughout much of their adult life, they're the same height that I am, 5'11", 6 feet tall. They have large eyes. Their eyes are perhaps twice as large as ours. They're typically blue, and then as they blue eyes with white pupils. Although when they get older, especially the men, their eyes take on a pink shade. Their eyes stretch further around the sides of their head than human eyes do, and their ears and their noses are only about half the size of human ears and noses, and their ears lay back along the side of their head more than a human does. Their lips are not as prominent as humans, and they don't have teeth, they just have ridges, because they're plant eaters, they don't eat meat. They have much less hair than we do. They don't have any hair on their arms, and the men don't have beards. On their head, they have only about half as much hair as humans, and their hair is so thin and transparent that they appear to be platinum blonde. Okay. Their home planet was an almost perfect duplicate of the Earth, except that it was running straight up in its orbit and half iced over. And they said that their star was a red star. It would frequently put out flares. People would stay underground for a while, a couple of days, till the flare passed. But otherwise, now the tall whites liked it much hotter than we do. The grays liked it somewhat hotter than we do. But the Norwegians were very happy if it was 10 degrees or 15 degrees colder than it is here, than we do, okay? They said that on their home planet, if you were at their equator, the climate was similar to the climate of southern Norway or Sweden or Finland. The reason they were coming here was because the Earth was a better place and almost the same size, had a better sun. They said that at noon on their planet it looked like sun. Tall whites liked it much hotter than we do. The grays liked it somewhat hotter than we do. But the Norwegians were very happy if it was 10 degrees or 15 degrees colder than it is here, than we do, okay? They said that on their home planet, if you were at their equator, the climate was similar to the climate of southern Norway or Sweden or Finland. The reason they were coming here was because the Earth was a better place and almost the same size, had a better sun. They said that at noon on their planet, it looked like sundown on the Earth when you have a red sunset. Their technology just barely allowed them to travel in space. Their technology allowed them to remove the forces of acceleration and to accelerate the craft without using rockets or whatever, just using the force fields unknown to Einstein. But it did not allow their craft to do high performance maneuvers or to exceed the speed of light. In order for there to be a craft that travels in space, it must have the ability to remove the force of inertia when accelerating. And it must have the ability for its propulsion system to leave nothing behind. And that requires streamlined flow.
I just want to pause that right here. So that sounds right to me, because you see these craft and you see them, going at Mach 28 and then making a 90-degree turn. Any human being or any being in general that is in that craft and that happened, you would be splattered against the walls of that craft. For one, the G-forces, you wouldn't be able to withstand those kinds of G-forces at Mach 28 or Mach 30 as fast as they can go. And then you're talking about all of a sudden, at that speed, just boom, like that, your body would just splatter against the walls of everything. So what he's saying about removing the inertia makes complete sense to me.
Craft be something like an ellipsoid or a smooth rounded saucer. It cannot have any concave sections. It can't have any intersections like this microphone. It has to be smooth. Otherwise, the force field will go turbulent, and then it'll seem like the mass is going to infinity. The tall white craft come in on the night of the full moon. The moon, the earth, and the sun are lined up, and at sundown you're coming in on the trailing part of the earth. As the earth moves in its orbit, you're following it. And if the moon is, even though the moon is smaller than the sun because it's closer, you have a region in space where the gravity field is smooth with no bumps, and the earth is moving away from you. And so when you're coming in, you can sync up with the movement of the sun and the earth, and then you keep backing off and let the earth's gravity pull you in, okay? This happens at speeds of 8,000 to 12,000 miles an hour. So when you come in, the deep spacecraft of the tall whites will come in and just stop on a dime at 10,000 feet, okay? This is different than if you're trying to land when the moon is in the third quarter. When the moon is leading the Earth in its orbit, no spacecraft pilot coming here from another star worth his salt ever wants to get caught in between the Earth and the moon when the moon is leading the Earth in its orbit, because that's a mousetrap. If you go in between there, Your spacecraft must work perfectly or you're going to be dead. Because with the Earth coming towards you, you can't back off, see? And if there's any problem with the coils, if they're running hot or anything's wrong, then the Earth is going to run into you. And so the pilots of the deep spacecraft are extremely conscious of the phase of the moon. Not even the aliens can repair their craft if they're out in the wild. All of them need to have a hangar. It's because the materials that things are made out of, the plastic, the metal, and so on, see, at room temperatures it's easy to work with, but if it's too hot or too cold, then it's hard to build stuff. Like you could never build a car out on a glacier in Antarctica because the materials are too cold, You want to take the car, if a car or an airplane were injured, repairing it out in that atmosphere is really, out in that environment is really tough. You want to bring it back to a repair site, and the alien craft are the same way. In 1965, it appeared to me, based on just what I saw, that the U.S. government had given the Tall Whites the base at Indian Springs. The agreement was that they would help us in any way that they wanted to, not necessarily any way they could, and that we would help them in any way we could. And so, for example, the Tall Whites, there were parts of their technology that they did not wish to share with us, such as their engine technology. There were parts that they were willing to share with us because that would allow them to buy the parts off the shelf, if you will, and use to repair their own spacecraft. So where their interests and ours overlapped, they were willing to share. Food was a big one, clothes was a big one. I don't know of any specific technology that we received from them because I was never part of any of those programs. I was the weather observer. But, for example, the night the deep spacecraft that had damage, which appeared to me to be meteor damage, the night it came in, it was obvious that one of the things they were going to need was high-grade titanium to do repairs on the interior of the ship. When you looked through the windows of the ship, as I did, from a short distance, like 50 feet, the interior of the deep spacecraft had corridors, like an ordinary Caribbean cruise liner, and the damage included damage to the walls. And so the metal repair parts, like aluminum and titanium and so on, they could get from the Americans. So the Americans might give them, say, pieces of aluminum cut to certain dimensions, pieces of titanium. This apparently also included fiber optics built to this alien specifications because many of the coils were damaged. And she had children with her. A very common way for her to start the conversation would be for her to...
Charles Hall interview about the tall whites behind Nellis Air Force Base. This is going to prove the existence of aliens.
Dr. Charles Hall says he spent 2 years working with extraterrestrial beings during his time with the American military. He claims the US military has actually been in contact with alien species for years. And Dr. Charles Hall is here to explain, along with his wife Marie, live from what Bugs Bunny used to call Albuquerque, New Mexico. Now, thank you both for your time. Terrific to have you with us. Firstly, Charles, can you tell us your story of how you managed to come into contact with these beings as you worked with the military?
I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I enlisted in the Air Force in July 1964, and I was trained as a weather observer. And I was sent to Nellis Air Force Base, Nevada, outside Las Vegas, Nevada. And for 2.5 years, I was sent up to the gunnery ranges up at Indian Springs, and I was given a clearance to allow me to go anywhere in Dreamland, as long as I was alone. I discovered that up there at the north end of Indian Springs Valley, which you can see on the map, in the state of Nevada here in America, that there was a base which the U.S. Air Force maintained for a group of extraterrestrials who were tall and white. And I, as the duty weather observer, was allowed to go up there, or they were allowed to come down to where I was. And the interaction took place over more than 2 years.
Wow.
During those 2 years, I also I also interacted to a lesser extent with the Roswell Greys, and I've also personally talked with the extraterrestrials that I call the Norwegians with 24 teeth, who come here from a very nearby star, perhaps Bernard star. And my experiences, my presentations, my books are unique because I'm the only person that I know of that was allowed to interact with the extraterrestrials, the tall whites, for more than 2 years.
So 3 different species of aliens you're talking about there, Charles?
Yeah, can you describe what they look
Yes,
like,
that is
what they
correct.
were like?
Sorry, I'm gonna skip past this. We've already seen this. I don't wanna repeat this. And sorry, I am beat. I am tired. I worked a long, hard day today. I work a 9 to 5 just like everyone else, and it's late, and I'm trying to get this content out there to you guys. So, please don't mind if I skip. It's something we've heard before.
If you can understand what I am about to say to you, thank you for the work you're doing. A deep shift in perspective is happening. It invites us to look inward, know ourselves better, heal, and evolve together. This awakening to higher awareness can only be felt if we are open to truth. When you awaken, you realize what you thought was true before wasn't fully accurate. You have to let go of conditioned assumptions. We have searched outside for truth when it's already within us. We already are everything, yet also the evolving awareness. Now you see the interconnection of all life, synchronicities revealing links uniting everything as one whole. As Einstein put it, coincidence is God in disguise. The Bible allegorically speaks of spiritual rebirth too, letting your old self fade as you renew. In this state, your mind expands childlike, learning through energy. Overwhelmed by new perspectives, your mind takes in intuitive knowledge and worldly experience, though it's often a lonely path. Seeing through illusions as revelations unfold, discernment awakens, and beliefs lose grip. You directly access the divine within. This world starts feeling less substantial. You now lead so others might also see. You are the wave realizing it's part of the ocean. Withstanding judgment, you sound a call for all to match the frequency of unconditional love, co-creating a beautiful world guided by balanced heart and mind. If no other creator will tell you this, listen to this with your conscious mind. The secret to who you are lies in your memory. That's the only thing that we take away when we complete this mission. Understand that refusing to evolve your current mindset means you're stagnant. You're essentially lifeless. Every day you must strive for evolution at your own pace, so you don't have to go through unnecessary hardships. There is a reason you have conscious mind and a subconscious mind. Consciousness is the main factor of your existence, but without memory, programming consciousness does not exist. Understand that memory is the thing that is keeping you alive. Without memory, you do not know who you are, you can't remember how to speak, or even your name. Memory is the heart of consciousness. Without it, you're just a brain existing. The information that you intake is really important. You will absorb it consciously if it has a true meaning to your soul, or subconsciously to add to your autopilot memory. Your soul's purpose is intricately tied to your consciousness, which is essentially your memory. Every experience, every emotion that you feel you take away when you complete your purpose. Learn about memory programming. Focus on your journey instead of external noise. You have been chosen. You are listening to this for a reason. No other creator.
I disagree with some of what was said in there because they're combining the brain and consciousness as one. Couple of parts of what he's saying. I understand what he's trying to say, but you have to realize that there is a complete separation between the brain and consciousness. Your brain is not your consciousness is a completely separate entity, its own, that acts without the it acts with the brain, but it lives without the brain. Your consciousness is not your brain. Your brain is just a translator for things. Your brain translates everything, but not consciousness. Your consciousness, that's why people have near unalive experiences and their brains are, coma, or their brains have no synapses firing, there's no movement in the brain, consciousness is still working as usual. As per usual, consciousness is doing all of these different things, even when the brain is not working at all. So I just wanted to say that real quick. Don't let them make you think that brain and consciousness are, they do work together at times, but they're completely separate entities, and one doesn't need the other. Consciousness does not need the brain. The brain has to have consciousness for us because we have a different level of consciousness as the beings that we are. Different from animals, different from reptiles, mammals. We have a type of consciousness, a type of awareness that other beings don't have. That's what makes us us.
Let me. Again if you don't understand.
God is in us, so collectively we are God.
The slavery is not physical anymore, it's mental. The New World Order has come in the shape of electronics, taking away your mind from what you want to apply it to. The mind is but a magnet to what you want.
We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience.
My experience being God.
It's vibrations, it's the word. If you even read the Bible, in the beginning, it was the word.
And God's inside me, God's inside you, God's inside all of us.
I believe in God. I believe in me. Same person. The matrix is everywhere. It is all around us.
I don't know if any of you like Muay Thai. I wanted to throw this in there because this is one of my favorite Muay Thai fighters. I did Muay Thai for a lot of years. I fought in Germany, I fought in the US, I fought in Thailand. But my original discipline was Taekwondo. I was 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo. But then I switched to Muay Thai, and I love Muay Thai. I don't do it anymore, of course. I'm older now. This is younger when I fought. But But the things that these guys can do now, it's amazing to watch. Let me pause real quick. This is Buakaw. This is my favorite fighter. He's just amazing. He throws his legs or like baseball bats, and he just flings them like bats too.
The night when Bulka showed perfect Muay Thai.
Tell you something funny. They have this weird thing in Thailand now where drunk Americans will go get into the ring with a Thai fighter and just get their asses handed to them. I don't know why these guys want to get hammered, and then be like, hey, I'm gonna go get in the ring with that guy. They pay a few bucks, they go in there, and they get pummeled. But the Thai fighters, they're taking it so easy on them. But the ones that are assholes, the ones that are being belligerent, oh yeah, they go a little bit harder on them. One thing to note is when you fight in Thailand, their rings don't give like ours do here. So when you get slammed, it's like being slammed on the ground, on the concrete. I learned that the hard way. Most of my life, see, I'm 5'8". Most of my life, I was about $135, $145. That was most of my weight until a few years ago, because I'm older now, and I'm focusing on other things instead of just fighting. I still practice, I still train, but I don't train. I'm not training for a fight, so I don't train as hard anymore. But yeah, I learned the hard way that their rings don't give. And so I fought one of their top fighters, and the first thing they showed me was they took me to the areas where they live. And so what happens is some of them leave home at around the age of 7 or 8, and they go live in these quarters where they're under a strict diet and a strict regimen of training. They're on a strict diet of food, they're on a strict regimen of training all day, every day, and they have a lot of work to do. And they do this all the way until they're in their teens. And then when they're in their teens, they start to get into fights. And it's crazy because, a 12 or 13-year-old Thai fighter in Thailand would whoop the hell out of, pretty much any grown man, anywhere else. Muay Thai is the most dangerous sport in the world. They call it the art of 8 limbs because you have 2 fists, 2 feet, then you got 2 elbows, 2 knees. So we use everything. And yeah, their rings don't give. I got slammed, and then I got hit. And the guy that I was fighting was a $135. These are not big guys. Thai fighters are not big guys usually. But the guy that hit me, he was smaller than me. And when he hit me, it was the first time I had ever been dazed. And my immediate thought was, I cannot get hit again in the face by him because he's gonna knock me out if I do. And I ended up winning the fight. I gained my composure and I ended up winning. But that was my toughest fight, and rightfully so. I'm in their country, doing their sport, and I don't train the way they do. But one thing that we did do was we hairline fractured most of our bones, and that was a big part of our training. So what happens in the body is when you hairline fracture your bones, it grows back stronger. It's called a honeycomb effect. So your bones actually grow back stronger. So when you see people, kicking things with their shins, I used to do that. All my fingers, bones of my fingers, my forearms, my shins, everything's been fractured, hairline fractures. So I've got a lot of nerve damage too, and that's why certain things don't work on me. If you were to do certain moves on me to where it, the nerves should make you just bend down to the ground and you can control a person. They don't, with pressure points and nerves, certain things just don't work on me because I've got so much nerve damage, and most of these guys do too. But they train way harder than I ever did. I got over there and saw how they live, how young they start. I started at the same age, but I didn't train like them. I was in Germany, and I wasn't out in the forest chopping down trees with my shins and all of that. But I did train very hard, and I did start hairline fracture, breaking my bones with hairline fractures at an early age. I did it over and over, so that way when you get older, you've done that so many times, your bones grow back so much stronger, and it just makes those bones a much better weapon.
The night when Bulka showed. The night.
จัดการได้เลย
One Super Series record. What a winner! The Malure Bad Boy debut for 10 off, teeing off with the shots.
Oh God! Oh God!
Many of you have asked me to test things like orgonite, shungite, and black tourmaline for their energetic properties. And you'll be amazed what they look like through our dicyanin aura goggles. So let's take a look.
So before this starts, let me preface this by saying dicyanin is very rare nowadays. It was used in World War One, I believe, and it's super hard to get now. True dicyanin is extremely difficult to get. But what happened was in the Vietnam War, the infrared goggles that they had a red tint to them, and people were seeing demons, like literally seeing demons. Like there was one guy, he was a gunner, helicopter, and he had his on, and he was seeing these just massive winged creatures, in trees or flying next to them in their helicopter. And, one guy was in there with him, and, Gunner just starts firing at stuff, just going crazy, firing, and they can't see what he's firing at. He's freaking out, and it messed him up mentally. It messed up so many people mentally. They were literally seeing demons, is what they say. They were seeing demons flying. And the crazy part is, once they put them on and they could see them, they saw that they saw them and would start coming at them. But nothing ever, they never did anything to them. They would just start flying at them or coming at them. And that's why the gunner is shooting at people. Dicyanin is different. It's got a purple tint to it. It's people have tried to pass it off. They try to scam you and give you something with a purple tint and say that it's real dicyanin. This guy got his hands on some real dicyanin, and it's actually true dicyanin. And dicyanin, they don't make it anymore, so it's really hard to find. It's extremely rare nowadays because they quit making it a long time ago. And but yeah, dicyanin has real effects to where when you look through it, you can see things that you can't see with the naked eye. And just remember, you've got a 100% spectrum of light, and our eyes can only see 1% of that spectrum. 1%. So our eyes are very dumb. Most of our senses are very dumb. As human beings, our senses are very dumb. That's why there's people that are blind, that can see, much better than anybody with eyes. There's people that are deaf, that can hear, that can use echolocation and form images. Our senses are very dumb. So I just wanted to preface what this is about, because a lot of this is about Oregon or biome. Wilhelm Reich, I think it was his name, in Germany. He created these boxes, and there was no electricity in them. It's all made with natural things like cotton and wood and wool. Made them, and he made small ones first, and he put plants in them. And what he was doing was he was pulling energy from the atmosphere to make them grow and also heal them. So once he did this over and over, he made larger ones, and he called the energy orgone. Some of them called it biome. I think he originally called it biome as well, but then he turned it to orgone. So he made them to where people could fit in them, and he would take people that had polio, cancer, all of these diseases, and the energy that, like I said, there's no metal. This is all natural material. There's no electricity. It's not plugged in, and people would sit in them, and they would say they got this warm, almost almost orgasmic feeling, but very warm, and it would heal them. It would heal the body. So whatever he was doing, he found that you don't have to tear the body apart to heal it. You use this to heal it. And this is so real that Stanford University students, I think it was 2019, don't quote me on that, I want to say 2019 or 2017, they actually built one of these, and it worked exactly like Wilhelm claimed it worked. But what he did was he came to the US and he never charged anyone money. He wanted to do this for free, and I do have plans on building one of these. I absolutely have plans to build one of these. So came to the US and he starts letting people get into them that are sick, and it's healing them. They're going to their doctors, and the doctors aren't understanding how the cancer is gone or how whatever ailment they have has been fixed. They can't understand it. And so they big pharma, big medicine, they did not like that. So they made him seem like he was a quack. They got him on tax fraud. They got him on all kinds of stuff, and they ended up imprisoning him. They kept trying to get him on stuff, and it wouldn't stick. And in the end, they got him on something. I believe it was tax fraud or something, and he ended up, unaliving in prison. He spent the rest of his days in prison, and it's extremely sad because there's another doctor like that in Texas that was doing the same exact thing just a few years ago, and he's a doctor, and he's healing people, and they couldn't get him on anything because he's not he's not using anything out of the medical industry, so they can't get him for practicing outside of whatever environment, any kind of HIPAA laws that he may be breaking. He's not. And they did the same to him. They raided him. They took all of his stuff. They raided him multiple times. They took him to court multiple times, and his thing was, I will do it for free. You just have to come to me, because he lives in Texas. All of his stuff is in Texas. You have to come to him. That was his only rule. It's free, and these are the type of people that we need. And I want to do the same thing. I want to build. I actually have everything I need written down to build this. I've just got to do it and start testing it out. But I just wanted to preface this before you guys see it. That's all. I'll shut up now.
We start with the most interesting and orgonite pyramid. And you can see for yourself the plume of energy coming out of the peak. This is no great surprise. Orgonite is based off the work of Dr. Wilhelm Reich and his work on orgone energy, and this is meant to accumulate that energy and focus it out the top. It seems to be doing exactly what it claims. And for all the skeptics, here is the photoforensics analysis showing that there's been no alterations to the picture. It is what it is. Reich was right. Deal with it. We move on to black tourmaline, which is much touted for its supposed energetic properties and its ability to repel negative energies. But as we can see here, the results are pretty surprising. There's not much going on at all. Next up was my favorite, selenite. And take a look at this. Not only is there a very pronounced plume coming out of the end, there's a halo around the center of the crystal, which is also quite visible on the forensics. Very cool. The next is something that's pretty trendy these days and also touted for its supposed energetic properties. Shungite. More like shung no. This one was disappointing as well. What you're seeing here matches perfectly with the research of Baron Karl von Reichenbach, who did research into this vital force over 150 years ago. He did these researches in his castle by blacking out the windows and bringing in people who were energetically sensitive and seeing what they reported when they looked at various substances. So what would you like to see tested next? Drop me a comment and let me know.
TikTok, all jokes aside, I have been trying to tell y'all. Y'all thought I was playing. Let me pitch myself down to a little guy. John Kirby pressed on likelihood of mass evacuation for Americans. I told y'all this a while ago because of what happened with COVID. Right before COVID hit, all of the elite people pulled their money out of their stocks because they knew something. Then, the following year, all of the elites start moving out of America. I said back then, they know something that we don't know. And like I said in the previous video that TikTok took down, this war has the potential to spill over on our soil. Now, if we do a mass evacuation, who gets the land? The elites. The dream for a future America is the land of the humanoid robot. They already have diagrams drawn up of the great human replacement. And not everybody has a passport and able to just get out. So when we get that warning to leave America, those that are left will perish. Now, these are all allegations, but as you can see, the White House is discussing this already. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Why would the White House be mass evacuations for us?
Well, they do think that there was something like a kraken. And the reason why is because they found some fossilized suction cups from a tentacle of some sort of cephalopod that was enormous, like really big. And they do know that there's giant squids, like you've seen giant octopus and giant squids. They get pretty big. But these things, apparently, this was like way bigger than this. This was like 100-foot long thing. In current days, they found suction cup wounds on animals, like on things like whales and stuff like that, where they're so big that they were trying to figure out, is that really an octopus that did that? Is there an octopus down there that fucking big? Kraken.
Okay, sorry, gotta pause. It's not an octopus, it's a squid. They've found giant squids with tentacles that are 60 feet long. Obviously, there have been real creatures that were referred to as kraken that could take down ships and have taken down ships. And it's true, they find whales. See, these squids have, their suction cups have these little hooks inside of them. So it's just a bunch of hooks. It's like a hell beast, something you would imagine you'd see in, a hell dimension. But yeah, there's massive squids, and you never know what's at the bottom of the ocean. But one quick thing I will say is, I can't remember the guy's name, the one that made the Titanic, and he was searching. He actually searched the Titanic, like physically, had these expeditions to search the Titanic. He had something hooked, a crane, and it had this metal rope, and he was deep down into the what's it called, the deepest part of the ocean. I can't remember the name off the top of it. Sure, when I remember it, I can't. But you know what I'm talking about, the deepest part of the ocean. And so he's bringing this thing up, and it's all steel. It's thick steel. It was a little like a little sub, but it was robotic. There was nobody in it. And while they're pulling it up, they're pulling this thing up, and something starts pulling on it and just taking out line of this thick metal. And so then it stops and moves the crane, almost breaks the crane off of the boat, and then it lets go. And so they ended up bringing it up, and there's these giant teeth marks. And the teeth marks, the only thing they could think that fit those kinds of teeth marks were a megalodon. And so, and they found teeth of megalodon. That megalodon is, the shark, the supergiant shark that they think is extinct. But as far as these go, it wouldn't be an octopus. Squids fight and kill whales a lot, and so that's why they find whales with all of these big suction cup marks on them, because whales eat squid, and squid fight them back when they're trying to eat them. So that's just a natural thing, but it's not octopus. I just wanted to make that clarification. It's not octopus that's doing that to whales, it's squids.
Was an ancient tentacled sea monster that ate whales and devoured entire ships. In 2011, researchers found the remains of a marine lizard that had been arranged in a strange pattern by what they claimed was a giant kraken-style octopus playing with its food. The kraken not only existed, but that he used his prey's bones as art.
The one day I do not allow in my group, I will not let anyone in on that day, because I'm telling you, guys are watching this right now, they're thinking, oh my God, if there's a born on May 25th, run like it.
I learned the hard way. I said, Gary, and I ran out the hall.
If there's a date that's possessed, it's May 25th.
He said there's one date a year you should avoid. We met her, and I started arguing. I'm like, no, I want to see this girl. She's like, you can't see her. You can't bring her here. I'm like, within 2 days, allegation. My first, in 10 years of working with women, my first allegation against me. But then, thank God it was all recorded, so I exposed their ass. But it was May 25th.
Yes,
women born on May 25th, they have evil energy.
Guys,
and he was right about that.
Guys, I want you to listen to me. I've been doing numerology and astrology for 20 years.
Yeah, Gary looked me in the eyes and said, if you want to have they're not in our house. And so I ran away from
Content house.
Yeah. He doesn't even live there, but he said to avoid that one number within 24 hours. And I never told him for the first few days because I didn't want the I told you so parade. So I just said, Gary, you're right, she's a little weird. But it was allegation level weird.
Yeah,
that's why he tries to get me around horses.
May 25th there's probably going to be millions of people watching this. I'm telling you, at least 10 to 15,000 guys are going to be watching. They're like, oh my God. Because May 25th, these are crazy as hell.
What do you guys think about this? This is Gary GG33. He's an expert numerologist. I know for a fact that there's actual correlations between astrological signs and us as beings. We're made from everything that stars are made of. So star alignments would obviously have something to do with who we are, and it's not, I wouldn't think of it as written in stone. This is verbatim, but I think it's a good guide to certain things about you. But there's also, it goes into much more depth. But he's using numerology for everything, and he's done a couple of really amazing things that's made the news, especially with the Clippers. Predicted. Nobody thought that they would win that championship, and he one that predicted it, and he's got a championship ring. So he's got some credit to himself, but I don't know. I don't know how right he always is, or how right this always is. I know numerology, symbology has been in history, since beings have been on Earth. I'm not just talking about us, Homo sapien, I'm talking all kinds of beings. This symbology has been here, so I think there's something to numerology. I've studied it a little bit. I just don't run my life by it, but it's interesting. Maybe I should, put a little bit more energy into that, and maybe some things would some bad things wouldn't happen if I did that. I don't know. I'd have to give it a shot.
Let's get into the holiday spirit and talk about some of these new ritualistic practices that are popping up, such as the elf on the shelf. So The elf on the shelf is relatively new to me because I usually don't partake in Christmas. However, this year my wife brought this back for the kiddos because all the kids were basically begging to get it and other stuff as she was out shopping. Now we do it all for the kids. I last year tried to do no Christmas and move forward with that energy. And I'll be honest, it was a very sad Christmas. And it all around felt kind of selfish, as weird as that may sound. So this year we did it for the kiddos. So this little guy, as soon as I saw it, I knew it was witchcraft. Now before I get into that, let's just talk about Christmas real quick. As you all may know right now, Santa is an anagram for Satan. Christmas is supposedly celebrating the birth of Jesus, the same Jesus that was sacrificed, and they worship the dead Jesus on the cross. And the Catholics drink of his blood and eat of his flesh. The Bible sounds like Baal, Baal. Y'all know about Baal worship. And if you study the Vikings and paganism, what you'll quickly understand is that Christianity is low-key paganism. They sold it to y'all otherwise, but it is indeed paganism. If you look at pagan and you look at Christians, they're all the same. In terms of prayer, worship, sacrifice, etc.
I'm going to skip this one because I got a feeling he's going to say some stuff. I got a feeling he's already said some stuff that YouTube might not like, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip this.
Yo, is that Steve Jobs? What the fuck?
If you want something done right, do it yourself.
They got a Steve Jobs anime? Oh, huh? This nigga stronger than Goku. Wait, what? What is that? Is that a black hole? Bro just spawned a
you
black...
want to use that much power? You can see you're not fully integrated.
Wait, what? Ain't no way he survives a black hole, right? That's
Did
a black
Mist
hole.
explain my side of this to you?
Ain't no fucking way.
You
This
need to
nigga
be more creative than that.
This nigga is stronger than Goku. I'm convinced. Hey, in my 20 years of living, bro, I've never seen a character do something like this, bro. He tamed the black hole, compressed the black hole, and flipped it back like it was a bouncy ball. I'm not gonna lie, bro. Like, at this point, authors just be having fun. Like, they just be trying to do whatever they can to compete with Goku. Like, this is not...
I was being led into a room, and Visayas had been watching a television transmission from Chicago. And policemen had just shot a black man that was running away. And then the policeman apparently ran over and tried to save his life. Okay? Visayas turns to me and he says, I don't understand your race. I don't understand why one would try to take his life and then the next minute try to save it. I didn't have an answer. In fact, many times I don't have an answer. Another time, I came on board. I was living in Lake Arrowhead at the time, and Mornay was looking at a group of meters on the ceiling of this ship. And it was all about the ozone and the air, oxygen content in our atmosphere. And he looked very distressed. And I said, what's the matter? And he said, don't they understand that all of this is here because they need it? They don't understand how we can just so carelessly destroy our environment. Now, folks, I want to share something with you. If there was not divine intervention, which apparently there has been, March 23rd of 1994, if there has not been divine intervention, and I will cover that, according to the Andromedans, we would only have 41 years left worth of oxygen in our environment. 3,500 years ago, the oxygen content, they say, was at 35, fluctuated between 35 and 38% between the North and South poles. Today, at its highest level, it's less than 18%. Now, those of you who took biology, what happens to the human form when oxygen as a gas goes below 15%? We die. We suffocate. This is reality, folks. This is reality. This is not Peter Jennings. Okay? This, you know, I mean, we don't have anywhere else to go. You know, and for those, and this is just what I've been told, and for those of you who think there's going to be a rapture, you might be disappointed. And I'm not saying this to question your belief. I'm just telling you that there are much bigger forces going on here. Okay, next slide, please. Save the question, sir, for later. Okay, please. Next slide, please. Okay, this is our solar system. There is life in all of these systems surrounding us. They have been coming here for years. For years they've been coming here. Okay, mythology, there's a shred of truth in all of it. The work that Zecharia Sitchin is doing, an absolutely fantastic book is called The Gods of Eden by William Bramley. I would suggest that those of you who have not read it, go get it in paperback version. It'll bring you right up to speed right away. It's wonderful. And he's not a UFO person, which is why I enjoyed it even more. All the truths, just let him right to it. In fact, there's more truth that the aliens are out there than they aren't. They just don't want you to know because they don't want you to know who you are. Because the minute we wake up, the game's over. They cannot control us. And if you look at our past history, if you read Zecharia Sitchin's books, we as a race, when we stand together, rebel against the gods, the ETs. We rebel because they have been, pardon my French, shitting on us for thousands and thousands and thousands of years and holding us back. Next slide, please. Okay, here's Earth. If we could just get on focus, thanks to me. This is what's left of Maldek. You know, the series of planets. The moon is not the only artificial. There are 9 artificial moons in our solar system, and I will share with you later what those are. I just want to cover a lot of information. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is the typical and traditional picture. Does that look focused to you? Yeah. Okay, maybe it doesn't. Okay. This is the traditional picture that we see of Earth. We got an awesome home, folks. It's one of the nicest ones around. But there's some things about our planet that have been withheld from us. For example, our Earth is, in fact, hollow. It is hollow. The next slide, I'm going to show you a NASA photograph that proves that there's an opening at the North Pole. Okay? You can find this photograph in a book called Our Violent Universe by Nigel Calder. It was first released in England, and I don't know how this one slipped through the cracks, but it did. Thank goodness. We are told that the gravity of our planet has to do with the rotation. According to the Andromedans and their science, the radiation...
So word on the street is that Oprah Winfrey allegedly got arrested like 2 days ago in Switzerland, and she was caught with $100 million in cash. Bitch, what you doing with $100 million in cash? I know you want to buy no property. Y'all, they finna drop them damn names. They is finna drop them damn names. Y'all get ready, get ready, get ready. They finna drop them damn names. It's finna go down. When the Lord said that he would set the world on fire, I don't think he meant physically, because in his word, I think in Genesis it says that he would never destroy the world again. I think he meant metaphorically, meaning all those who say yea, they the Lord will be exposed, because this shit is literally being burnt to the ground. Literally, it's being burnt to the ground. I wonder why I wonder if that's why Beyonce and Jay-Z just went about that bunker underground. Because they know they're next. Anywho, but yeah, I gotta find some more tea on this, y'all, because bitch, was you on the run?
I will comment on this. do some research on New Zealand. So what's been happening is a lot of billionaires have been building bunkers. That's a lot of B's. Billionaires building bunkers in New Zealand. And there's people that are taking videos of the construction being done, and the New Zealanders are pissed off because they're all building these bunkers in this certain area, this certain city in New Zealand. Well, what that's done is it's driven up the price of everything around there, the price of housing, the price of food. It's driven it up to where the people that are from there can't even afford to live there anymore. And these houses that have these bunkers under them, nobody's even living there. They're not living there. This is their escape plan. I saw a guy that was going up to these houses, and they knew which billionaire lived in which billionaire owned which property. He's from New Zealand, and so he goes there, and they have, somebody staying there watching over the house, like a housekeeper staying there watching over the property, watching over the house, and all of that. But the worst part about it is, in order to become a citizen of New Zealand, you have to go through a lot of stuff. It takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of effort to get citizenship for New Zealand. You can't just get it like that. Well, New Zealand has sold out and basically sold these billionaires citizenships to New Zealand. So now they have dual citizenship, and they basically bought their citizenship to New Zealand. So the New Zealand government has messed up because they have officially sold out and started selling citizenships to these billionaires. They've destroyed this area that they're building these bunkers in because everybody in New Zealand knows what's going on there. But the natives that are from there, all of these houses, all of these properties, these billionaires, they're driving the prices up sky high. And now the people that are foreign, or the people that are from there, can no longer afford to live there. They can't even afford to buy food there. So, they're having issues, and it's really messed up when people start doing that. But also, when people start doing stuff like that, I start paying attention. When billionaires start building bunkers, I should put that on a t-shirt, something. When they start doing things, when they start making moves like that, I pay attention because I'm wondering what's going on. What do they know? Obviously they know a lot more than I know about whatever the situation is, but I'm wondering, why are they doing this? I have my own contingency plans, and I'm still building upon my contingency plans for my family, just in case, I've got food for a few months. I've got all organic food also, nothing GMO at all, but it's all stored over the last 25 years. I've got water for months. But I'm still building on that. I would love to put a bunker in my backyard, just underground, a small one. I don't know if I can, I could even, or if that would even help, with whatever they're preparing for, because I don't know what they're preparing for, so who knows.
So everything I'm about to say is totally alleged and for entertainment purposes only, okay? But apparently this just happened in Switzerland. Yeah, that's a little weird because you know what else happens a lot in Switzerland? Like a bunch of evil stuff, okay? A lot of evil people like to hang out in Switzerland. That's weird. Remember, this is also in Switzerland. This is also in Switzerland. Let's not forget that this weird little event took place in Switzerland. Just saying, like, really weird stuff happens in Switzerland, okay? What's up with that?
The second picture she showed of the WEF is the worst thing on this planet. Those people are truly, they're very evil. Research Agenda 21. Please research Agenda 21. There is an American woman that she worked for the U.S. government, and she procured land for the government, and she would take people's land. And she said how, this started in 1991 or 1990, and then it started getting to full effect in what was 2018, I believe, is when it started going into effect. Funny that at that specific time, with what else was going on at that time, this started going into effect. So in Europe, we talk about this openly. Everybody knows about it. It's very widely talked about. Talked about on the news, it's talked about in person. But here in the US, it's not shown at all. Nobody's talking about it. If you start to talk about it, people think you're a conspiracy nut. They think you're Looney Tunes, and it's not talked about on the news, and people just don't believe it. And they tell you, you will own nothing and love it. And they're taking all of the land, just like in India. Bill Gates pulled all of the land from these farmers. There was so many farmers unalived themselves because they got their farms taken from them. They were offered money. If they didn't take the money, then their farms were destroyed. And so they were unaliving themselves. It was the most amount of unaliving of farmers in India to ever happen in history, just a couple of years ago. It's also doing the same thing in the US that way. And part of this whole Agenda 21 is to get everybody out from the rural areas, bring everybody closer together, and then they're also making these what are they, 5-minute cities or whatever, to where they're bringing everybody in so they can control them. But they're putting houses and apartments in areas where they normally wouldn't. You wouldn't put, like, down the road from me, I live pretty far out, but on the other side there is a complete stadium, and then there's about 15 to 20 right now apartment buildings right there at the stadium. And I know a few people who live in those new apartments, and they're extremely expensive. There's nothing special about them, but they hate where it is because there's a baseball stadium there. Not only that, you have a baseball stadium, and then you have rows of restaurants right there. And then you have rows of restaurants in the back. So they're controlling the flow of everything. They can bunch everybody up into these little areas. They can control everything. They can control where you go in, where you go out, where you can and can't go. And they're trying to bring everything closer so they can control it all. Then with the farming, they're doing all of this crap to the food, and they're doing it without you knowing. The FDA just recently made it legal for restaurants and grocery stores to sell you lab created meat, fake meat that has slices with meat glue. It's literally called meat glue in between to make it look like that's a steak. And they don't have to tell you that that's what they're serving you in a restaurant. The FDA did this. You know? The FDA is just as wicked and evil as any other alphabet agency out there. They're all the same. And the US has a huge problem with this kind of stuff. You know, we already know Agenda 21 has been going on in Europe. But the way that they're doing it here, you know, at least in Europe, we have provisions, we have laws. You can't do certain things over there. But over here, it's like everything is trying to unalive you. Everything is trying to make it to where you have this meager existence and you're constantly having ailments because of the foods that you eat, which means you're constantly going to the doctor and getting put on medications which have side effects, which send you back to the doctor to get other medications which have more side effects, and it's this endless cycle. So please research Agenda 21. There's a woman that did a YouTube video. I haven't been able to find it lately. I don't know if they took it down, but she talks about it. And she talks about everything that she's been doing, because she was the one procuring that land for the government. And so she talks about this in depth. She lives in the Netherlands, and so she has for a while. But she talks about in depth. I think her name is Marie something. If I can find it, I promise I'll put it up here. But that's something people need to know about, because I don't know anybody here that knows about it. But when I go home, when I go back to Europe, everybody knows about it. We talk about it openly. So yeah, just sorry for the rant, but there's just so much. There's so much.
We may soon learn the identities of more people connected to Jeffrey Epstein. A federal judge has ordered the release of more than 150 names which were previously withheld. They include witnesses and victims in the civil case against Ghislaine Maxwell, who is currently serving 20 years in prison for being Epstein's accomplice in sex trafficking. The list also includes some of Epstein's former employees. Epstein, a wealthy and well-connected financier, was indicted in 2019 for a scheme of involving underage girls. He later took his own life in jail before he could be tried.
Look at this motherfucker right here. That's Playboy Cardi like a motherfucker. Look like a regular person. But then that fame got to his ass. Yeah, every time a motherfucker get into the music business, not every time, but most of the time, they be like this, and then they turn into a different motherfucker. Cause look at this shit right here, dog. He looking like a demon. He looking like he worships Satan. What happened to you, pal? What happened to you, buddy? You a different motherfucker. Look at that. That's Trippie Redd. Before the fame, young boy. Look nice as a motherfucker. Like he wouldn't hurt a motherfucking fly. And he from Ohio like me. But what the fuck happened? Fame comes with a price. Cause what the fuck is this shit? You looking like a motherfucking demon, dog. That's right. Something don't look right about yo ass. You motherfuckers be tripping. That's probably why your name Trippie Redd. And you used to look gray as a motherfucker. Actually, you look gray as a motherfucker in this picture. But that could just be the paint, dog. Now look at this little motherfucker. That's little Uzi Vert. Try to say that name fast as a motherfucker about 7 times. You're gonna end up saying something else. Look like a nice young kid. Like he wouldn't hurt a fly. But then something changed. And what changed is motherfucking fame. Cause what the fuck is this shit right here, dog? Motherfucker, you look like a demon. That's a big fact. That's creepy as a motherfucker. Imagine you waking up to go take a piss in the middle of the night and see some shit that looking like a dat. I'll pop his dumb ass. Big fact. Look what we get up next. Miss Doja Cat. Look like a sweet, innocent young lady. Look like she ain't into none of the fuckery or the bullshit. But then the price of fame will change all of that shit. Cause what in the fuck is this shit, Doja? You are a demon. That don't just look like one, motherfucker. That is one. I don't give a fuck how much artwork they done did to you. You don't go from being a nice, sweet person to some shit like this. And that's the price of fame. Yeah, just like that. There's a lot more people who went through the same shit. Either they go through a motherfucker humiliation ritual, they gotta sacrifice a motherfucker, they gotta do some shit they don't wanna do with their body parts to somebody else, to their body parts, if you know what the fuck I'm talking about. They doing a lot of crazy shit. And yeah, I'm at work for the motherfuckers who be in the comments talking about some get a job. Bitch, I got a job. I just do this because I like doing this shit, motherfucker. And I got characters with my videos. Yeah, I don't talk like this in real life, but it's entertaining, motherfucker. I ain't about to bore y'all. I'ma show y'all some shit and make you laugh at the same time. Dog, peace.
I'm gonna say this right now. If you want to live really freaking long, don't eat for 3 days straight. Just drink water only. You don't need no herbs, you don't need no tea, nothing. Just straight up spring water. When you don't eat for 24 hours, your body starts to activate its like defense mechanisms. Ketosis, homeostasis, which is the coasting your skin. You start pushing impurities out. And the best part is if you're working out, on the day 3 of no food, you activate your growth hormone. And it's proven. I've proven this because I lived it. It's like a low dose of steroids. I'm not joking. I literally was just eating raw fruits and honey. And then I would eat every Monday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And I'd lift every single day. On day 2 and 3, infinite energy. Infinite energy. And I was getting huge. If you go look at my Instagram. Yep, see? And you're gaining muscle, right? Exactly. It doesn't make sense because everything they've told us is a lie. How can one reverse insulin resistance? You don't need insulin. You need to start eating actual foods that don't go through your pancreas. The reason why you're yielding insulin is because when your blood sugar spikes, it's artificial. It's artificial sugar. It's heightened sugar. So you have to get away from all that normal stuff. The reason why they put people on insulin is because people don't want to make the lifestyle change. They want to eat what they're eating and just take the insulin. No offense. If you don't want insulin resistance, you need to eat things that are natural. Because when you eat things that are natural, it goes through your liver instead, is naturally absorbed. So you get energy through your liver. Raw honey is naturally absorbed through the liver. If you're insulin resistant, it's because when you eat sugar, it yields this thing called the islands of Langerhans, which is what yields insulin unnaturally. So the thing is, it goes to your pancreas, and your pancreas shoots insulin into the bloodstream, and what the insulin does is it rips your cells open unnaturally. It rips them open so it can absorb the unnatural sugar source, because your body's carbon. Your body's made up of carbon. The closest thing to carbon is sugar, raw sugar, like from fruit. That is carbon. H3O2 is the structured jelly water. That's what your body's made up of. Oh, your body's made up of 70% water. Structured jelly water is what your body's made up of, and that's what's in your water. That's why when you get water or liquids and stuff, you can see the separation. That's real. That's H3O2 at the top, the hydration, and then the rest is the natural sugar. So it's supposed to be absorbed through the liver and not the pancreas. So what's happening is you're eating things like Oreos and all this synthetic stuff, the heightened stuff. They've taken sugar and they've heightened it. So when it goes into the body by them heating it up, it's getting absorbed incorrectly.
Yeah, he's talking straight facts. I've gone on, my longest fast was a little over a month, and
I'm gonna say this right now. If you want to live really freaking...
Whoops. My longest fast was a little over a month, and everything he's saying is right. When you fast, the first thing your body does is it starts to get rid of all of the bad stuff with it. So I wouldn't call it a detox. I'm saying like bad cells, any kind of damaged tissue in your body starts to eliminate that when you fast. Yeah, it's natural. It's supposed to happen that way. And yeah, everything he's saying is right. I've helped quite a few people come off of insulin. I've said that in one of my other videos. But also what happens is when you start taking insulin, you know, your pancreas shrivels up. It stops working because you're getting this you're getting this artificial source externally. So now your pancreas doesn't have a need to work, and after so much time of using insulin, you know, it stops doing anything. You know, even if it was doing just a little bit, it stops doing anything. But the good thing is this is all reversible. You can fix all of this, but it is diet change, and you do have to eat good foods. You have to eat natural foods. Don't eat this GMO crap. Please don't eat this GMO crap. Don't eat the stuff that they're putting out there. Don't eat synthetic stuff. Don't eat fast food. Don't eat processed foods. Eat natural stuff. You can eat meat. Get real meat. You know, natural meat. No hormones, no antibiotics, no steroids, none of that. It's a little bit more expensive, but your body will feel better. Eat natural fruits. When you eat something natural, like natural fruits, you can feel it go down into your body, and it's almost like your entire system is saying, thank you, I have needed this. You can feel it. I mean, I'm telling you, you can feel it. I do it all the time. I don't eat daily, but when I do eat, my body is saying that when I eat natural stuff. I don't eat bad stuff. I just won't. I'll fast before I put crap into my body. That's just not what I'm about.
Pay attention to this idea, because this will really kick you to another level. Many times we know that many of you visualize the idea of your ideal reality. That's all well and good. But many of you are under the misguided assumption that that picture in your mind of the ideal reality is as good as it can get. From the higher mind's perspective, that's just the beginning. So why insist that the reality has to manifest only to the best that your physical mind can picture it, when in fact, that is just the starting point for the higher mind, and let the higher mind bring you something even better than you could possibly have imagined. You can use that as a template, as a starting point, but don't insist that that picture in your physical mind is as good as it can possibly be, because it's not. And the idea also is to understand that the physical mind is not designed to know how something is going to happen. It's only designed to know how something is happening and has happened. It doesn't have the ability to know how something is going to happen. The higher mind does that job. So all the physical mind has to do is say, this is what I believe is representative of the vibration of my true self. This is my preference as a state of being. Even though you have a representational picture, that's just a template. It's just a symbol to let the higher mind know you're in the proper state of being to receive whatever the higher mind will then attract to you, however it needs to, without you thinking you have to know how and trying to make it happen. Because when you try to make it happen the way the physical mind thinks it needs to happen, that's when the higher mind crosses its arms, taps its foot, and waits for you to get done doing a job you're not supposed to do. And let it do its job. Say, this is representative of the state of being. Just be in the state of being, and then allow the higher mind to bring it to you in whatever way, shape, or form it knows is best for you at that moment. Make sense?
Yes.
This is how to use energetic physics and how to form a relationship with higher mind, with physical mind, through the idea of the brain that functions in a way that allows you to be a harmonious, whole person. Because to be a whole person, you have to have physical mind and higher mind working in tandem, in harmony. Otherwise, you're just, in a sense, half a person. So, allow yourself to act on your excitement by all means. do so without the conditions and expectations that it must come out exactly as you pictured it, and allow the higher mind to bring it to you in a way that's even better than you imagine, by not imposing conditions on it.
Okay, got two more for you, and these are extremely important. I personally have experience with this. Soursop, I've gotten the leaves imported, and I've also gotten the whole the actual ground up pieces to where you can take. But I've gotten the soursop leaves, I've gotten the fruit, I've got it ground up where it's concentrated. This is extremely important, so I want to put this out there because this is real. This helps. I helped extremely close friend that's basically like family with cancer with this, and it helped. So just, and I'm not, don't take my advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying what I did helped, and this did it.
Well, I tried to give me some soursop, and they were out of the actual leaves, but we do have soursop with the bitters. All right, so again, it covers 12 cancers. We're not specific, but it does cover 12 cancers.
It's 12 different types of cancers, and I know for sure. I think it was colon, prostate, I believe breast, I believe liver, and I can't remember the other ones offhand.
Okay, definitely. But those are ones that you know.
It's at least 12.
Okay, and what was the difference in taking the leaves as opposed to living bitters? Because this has different mixtures, not just soursop. What's the difference?
Well, like this one here that's got the mixture. I had some customers actually tell me that they were pre-diabetics, and after the first or second bottle, their A1C had already dropped down to...
Are you serious?
Seriously. Like down to a 4.5, which is a good number for A1C.
That's
and that was just with 1 or 2 bottles.
Wow. Okay.
And it also helps with gout. And it also helps with digestion.
Okay.
And it also kills parasites.
Okay.
So it's got many, many good benefits to even doing the soursop mixture.
The mixture, okay. Okay. So let me ask you this. Okay, last time we talked about black seed oil, the benefits of that. So what's the difference in black seed oil and soursop? And I asked that because they have so many different properties that are similar. So do you take black seed, or do you take soursop, or do you take both? I mean, like, what does somebody add to their daily life? Is it one or the other?
I would say one thing I do know about the soursop, that it can also activate your stem cells, which can help bring out the new stem cells, can also boost your immune system even more.
Makes
so
sense.
That's another reason why people like the soursop.
Got you.
Black seed oil covers like 13 different properties.
Right.
So that's why it covers like over 100 and something health issues.
Okay.
But I feel we get a lot of people too that actually look at the soursop for different types of cancers. A lot of people come in asking for it.
So would you say it just depends upon the person? I mean,
I think it depends upon the person
and what their symptoms are, so to speak?
What the symptoms, what stage cancers.
But what if there's no cancer? You just want to do prevention?
Oh, for prevention, just do, if you want, just maybe 1 tablespoon a day of these soursop living bitters.
Okay.
You can just do 1 tablespoon a day, maybe.
That's prevention.
Prevention.
Okay.
Maybe not even that much.
Right.
Or you can do 2 apricot seeds.
Got you. Okay.
You don't need to take that many of that. If there's nothing else going on with you, just 2 seeds a day is probably fine.
Right, and you just want to be healthy, so that's what you would recommend. Miss Nancy, you are always on it, and I just want to say thank you. The people love you because your information is valuable, and together we are disrupting cancer, so thank you.
Hallelujah.
So that's another thing, and I've seen people's TikTok accounts get banned for talking about apricot seeds. But yeah, apricot seeds will cure so many things, but they don't want, big pharma, big medicine. They don't want you to know this. The soursop bitters are a good thing. Just make sure you get the real stuff, because there's a lot of scammers out there. There's a lot of people. Don't never get them if you see them in a pill. Never buy that, because some people will say, oh, it's not FDA regulated, but the FDA is not a good entity. It's an evil entity. So I wouldn't care if it was FDA regulated or not. My point is, you don't actually know what's in those little capsules. You can buy anything and put it in there and sell it at GNC or a health food store and say it's whatever you want. I had the actual leaves, and then I had the actual ground up leaves that were concentrated, and I've had the liquid to where it's been made into a liquid. So you take, like, the leaves are big, they're like this big, and you get them, they're not dried out, they're actually still alive, and they're in perfect condition, and you don't even need the whole leaf. You take off like about that much of a leaf, take about 2 pieces like that, then you boil it into a tea, or you can put it in your mortar and pestle, grind it down, and put that into to water and make it into a tea. So yeah, these are all very important things. Apricot seeds, a lot of people don't know about that. That is some of the most powerful stuff on this planet. It cures so many things. It literally cures so many things. I don't know about the stem cell part that she's saying. I don't know that as a fact. That might be true. It might not be. I'm just saying I personally don't know. But the only cells in the human body that never regenerate are your brain cells. Your brain cells are the only things that once you start losing them, or once you start killing them off, you can never get them back. So that's why stem cells were invented, to try to rejuvenate parts of the body that have either aged, or they started to decay. But also for your brain, it can give you more brain cells. So that's another thing. We got one more good one. Just work with me, wait with me. We're building on something, and I want you to see this.
I like mushrooms. Have you ever done mushrooms? No. Okay, you should do mushrooms. You would actually really enjoy them. So I have a thesis for psilocybin mushrooms, and I'm just going to put this out there. But Japanese scientist Paul Stamets, who's the leading expert on mushrooms, observed that there's an experiment that Japanese scientists did, and what they did is there was a labyrinth that represented the Tokyo subway system. And they planted mycelium, aka the mushroom, and they placed food on the other side of this virtual toy version of the subway system. And the mycelium, through time, found a more optimized way of finding the endpoint than the engineers had crafted the Tokyo underground metro system. So the entire Japanese current metro system is based on the mycelium network's movement, because it is intelligent. So when you consume the mushroom, you're actually tapping into data sets in truth that come from the earth.
So I don't know if you guys remember me in one of my other videos talking about, these mountains that are actually giant tree trunks, and I was talking about the root systems, and I was saying, if trees were that huge, everything was much larger. The oxygen levels on this planet were, so much higher that it allowed things to grow to gargantuan levels. I don't get to use that word that often, gargantuan, but this is a proper place for it. But I was also talking about the mycelium network. So mushrooms have the largest network of any plant on the planet. The mycelium network allows it's almost like nerves, but they send data through them. They can communicate with each other. They can help each other. They can hurt each other, but mostly help each other. The mycelium network underground for mushrooms is magnanimous. It is massive. And think about how big things were back then. Think about how big the mycelium network underground was back then. I am a huge proponent of mushrooms. Mushrooms are, you can microdose, you can take different types, lion's mane, all of these different things. But these are the things that are, not big doses, but just small amounts. These are the things that are going to help you open your mind, open your mind to what's really out there. Deprogram yourself, because we've all been indoctrinated. We've all been programmed since birth because of these people that put these protocols in place for how they want, the world to be, and they think it's their world, and it's not. There's more of us than there are of them. So that's why we have to become aware, get this information out there, and we have to stand together. That's the main thing. Stand together.
From all of us out here in Mission Control, welcome to space.
The Russians always knock 3 times. I think it's just a superstition.
Listening to the wind of change.
Wow. I mean, I've seen pictures, but this is...
We don't talk politics. Here we're one.
Hey, guys.
Wait a minute, what the hell is going on down there?
Oh, whoa.
We gotta get up now, guys. Let's get out.
Oh, my God.
Земля, это экипаж МКС.
Houston, do you read?
War has broken out below. And we were told to take the ISS by any means necessary.
If we got orders from our government to take control,
what do you suggest we do now?
the Russians got the same orders as us. And they just struck first.
Struck first. Mutually, we're evolved species.
I remember when I was working for NASA, it was right when Obama had gotten elected, and there was this massive layoff of about 14,000 people. And I've said this in my other videos. Excuse me. Part of my job was to go to every NASA site within the continental U.S. I didn't go to ESA, which is the European Space Agency. I was just U.S. And I didn't go to JPL. It's the only one I didn't go to. Jet Propulsion Laboratories, the one in California. Carl Sagan and all those people from there. But yeah, and I remember, you know, the layoff took years for you know, and people's lives were being ruined. You know, a lot of people had been there, you know, 25, 30 years. Their retirement was there, and it was a very sad time. And I remember towards the end of it, you know, I didn't get hit, and I thought I was never going to get hit. And then right at the end, I started getting hit. So they started jumping me to different projects. And one of the projects they offered me was, they were like, hey, we know that you speak a bit of Russian, and you lived in Russia for a little bit. Do you want to go to Russia to support the ISS? And I was like, no, I don't want to go to Russia now. You know, I went to Russia for a little while when I was younger, but I wouldn't want to go there now. You know, I was like, what would I be doing in Russia? They were like, well, you know, there's like six of us out there supporting the ISS, and I was like, still no, I don't want to go to Russia. I don't, you know, not to live, you know, and so I got jumped on a bunch of other projects, but I still, you know, fight with this. I'm still trying to learn because you've got people out there, you've got congressmen that are having congressional hearings. Uh, in the they're talking to the Senate. You know, they're talking about all of this fakery with NASA, and you know, it's amazing to me because I can't say one way or the other. I know my experience, you know, like I said, I've been to every NASA site, you know, I've been to Kennedy Space Center or Cape Canaveral, you know, where the launches are. I've been in the VAB, the Vehicular Assembly Building, which is the largest building in the United States. It's even got its own weather station at the top because it's so tall. You're driving towards it for miles and miles because it's just a straight drive to it, and you can see it the whole time. And you know, it just seems like it takes forever to get there. But that's where the shuttle comes out of, and it's on the crawler, and the crawler goes 1 mile an hour. And I asked the guy that, you know, drove the crawler, I said, I think the shuttle site's 12 miles away. Crawler goes 1 mile an hour, so it takes 12 hours to get there. I said, what if you get halfway there and make a mistake? He said, well, just do the math. And I was like, geez. But yeah, so my experience is, you know, if and I know, you know, NASA in Hebrew is what is it? Lies or to lie or something. I don't know. Something like that. But yeah, if all of it's fake, it's the biggest. I would say it's one of the biggest fakeries of all time because there's, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars into these projects. And you know, I've seen the weather balloons, I've seen, you know, the satellites go up on these weather balloons, these big balloons. I've seen that, you know, where they're right outside of the stratosphere. uh, you know, I've witnessed all of that. I've been around it. I've helped work on some of the actual satellites. So and Discovery, but you know, Discovery too. But yeah, you know, that's it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out because if all of that is fake and everything that they've been showing us is fake, like I already knew NASA was doing Photoshop before Photoshop existed. I knew that a long time ago. You know, I wasn't, I hadn't even worked at NASA when I knew that, you know, but, you know, I thought they were doing it for a good reason, you know, and also trying to take a round map and flatten it out, you know, another thing. But you know, I've got books that are very old that show different things than what they're trying to teach us now, and that's what makes me question. I've got books that are not from the US that are, you know, hundreds of years old that show different things. And then you look at these maps from sailors, and then other people have made these maps of Antarctica, you know, only a few thousand years ago, but it's without ice. You know, so you're like, how did they do that? So you have to think about that. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But that's the last one I had for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you loved it. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Tell me if any of you have tried mushrooms, if any of you are into any of that stuff. let me know in the comments. Do you know about the apricot thing? You know, hopefully I don't get banned for talking about it. I've seen, off the top of my head, I can think of 7 or 8 TikTok accounts that I've seen get banned for mentioning that. So that's like censorship, and I believe, you know, there has to be transparency. I've fought since at least 1998. I've been one of the biggest advocates for freedom of speech on the internet, for people to be able to have not only their privacy but to say whatever they want as well. I'm a big proponent of that. I've been a major advocate of that. You have no idea the work that I've done behind that. I was a big proponent of that. So the fact that they're trying to cover everything up and there's no transparency, it's not good. You know, we need to have this transparency, and it's our money that, you know, they're spending. You know, it's taxpayers' money, you know, which we shouldn't even have taxes in the first place. It's stupid, but that's another topic. But, you know, just let me know in the comment what you think. I hope you enjoyed it. This was a little mix, just testing some stuff out, but you know, also stuff that I'm interested in, that I hope my audience is interested in. And like I said, each and every one of you that comments and subscribes, I thank you deeply from my soul. I truly appreciate you, and I appreciate the comments. Everybody's been really great in the comments. I really appreciate it. I can't express that enough. From the heart, I truly appreciate it. So I'll catch you guys on the next one.